About 10 years ago, I got this. I self-diagnosed myself, but then it was confirmed by a doctor. I had this illness called LPR, which is also known as silent acid reflux, which sounds like nothing, but it's actually horrendous.
Well, the idea of acid reflux is horrible. That's why it sucks when it happens.
Yeah, and so with LPR, ironically, I can't think of what LPR stands for now, which is insane because I literally wrote a book about it. This is what happened to me. I developed this wheezing cough, and it was like really annoying. Like there'd be like a whistling, wheezing sound.
Lawful permanent resident, or
it's not that one. Although I am also that.
Or Laryngopharyngeal.
That's the one. Jophageal.
It's better with your accent.
Oh, I love that. God, this is why I'd never said it. Let's just call it silent reflux. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
But basically, the way acid reflux is very simple. It's just you have these esophageal sphincters, and for various reasons, sometimes they're supposed to shut when you're not eating, but sometimes they will miss dysfunction, and you'll get acid come up into your throat, and it burns your throat. The reason it's called silent acid reflux is you don't actually usually get the heartburn feeling. What you get, because instead of it being acid coming up, it's gases, pepsins. So it's like this acidic gas that comes up. Oh, so the only way you know you have it is you develop like throat issues. Like I got diagnosed with asthma, having never smoked and exercised my whole life, never having any issues breathing. I got diagnosed with asthma. They gave me an inhaler. And there's other weird, there's almost limitless symptoms that can be associated with it. But long story short, I was in permanent discomfort for about 2 years. And it was ruining my life. And for me, I had this cough. I could never sleep on my back. I still won't sleep on my back because I'm like traumatized from it. If I tried to sleep on my back, I would start wheezing. So I'd always have to sleep on my side, and I would get pain, not really pain, discomfort it would be constantly cycling through my body. I'd get mostly this tension in my diaphragm right here. Really, like it felt like you could take like a needle and pierce it, and it would be like, psh, just felt like all this pressure there. And then it would go away, and I'd get gut pain, and then I'd get my throat, basically like a lump in my throat. Like when you were little and you wanted to cry and you're trying not to, it would be like this throat pain. Anyway, dealt with it for a long time. I was Googling my symptoms, trying to figure out what it was. All I could find is there is no cure. You can try and manage symptoms. I'd go to like support groups and stuff, and it's just depressing. It's people going, I've had this for 10 years, my life is ruined. And I was completely just fucked. All I wanted was to hear somebody say, I had this and I healed from it. For reasons that I still don't understand, somehow I started to notice that over time, the more I worried about it, the worse it got. And what you'll do is, because a lot of people will say, oh, well, the root cause is like gut health issues, so you fuck with your diet. So I did every diet possible. I did, keto, high carb, vegan, carnivore, cannibal. Just kidding. But I literally tried. There's no diet I didn't try. Yeah. There's no supplement I didn't try. Nothing helped. Nothing. And in fact, it seemed to make it worse, because the more I focused on it, the worse the symptoms seemed to be. And every now and again, I'd go, fuck it. Nothing I do helps. And I'd go get like McDonald's. And every time I did it, I felt a bit better. Like every time. And over the course of, I don't know how long, I started doing this experiment where I just decided through like Jedi mind skills that I would, every time I would feel these symptoms, instead of spiraling into despair, I would tell myself, nah, fuck it, I'm fine. Like literally just lie to myself. I'd say, it's all bullshit, I'm fine. And this is a very short story version of what I did, but basically that's what I did. And then with it, before you knew it, for the first time in over 2 years, I was like, I don't feel any symptoms ever. And now I have a YouTube channel. I think it's called Eddie Stevens Training, because at that point I was trying to make money as a trainer as well. But I had all these LPR videos, which sort of went viral. And now it's insane to me. I literally made, I say I wrote a book. It's an ebook. Yeah. It's more like a pamphlet. But I literally did it because this is what I noticed. People who have this disease, it's not really a disease, it's stress-induced illness, okay? They all want their hand held. They all want you to help them. They basically, I still to this day get messages most weeks. Sometimes it's someone telling me like something awesome, like, I had LPR for 5 years after watching your videos. I haven't had any symptoms in 6 months. You have literally saved my life. It's fucking incredible. Sometimes they want to talk to me, and I've never asked for money, and anytime I've literally had like phone conversations with people who have this disease just to try and help them. But it's really tricky because it's anxiety induced. What I didn't say is when my wheezing cough started, it was when my dad went into a coma. He had a stroke, went into a coma. He was living in Portugal at the time. I had to fly out to Portugal. It was financially hard. It was like a nightmare. I stayed there as long as I could. I left. The day I left, he died. It was like, so like all this shit. And this is after years and years of just having plenty of issues with stress and anxiety. And my theory is that when you have this much stress, I don't want to say that all illness is caused by stress, but I'm very fucking tempted to say that it is.
Well, there's studies about it, first of all, but there's something to be said about the only organ that named itself and has deemed itself the most important. You know what I mean? It's such a simple analogy, but I think there's something to it. And there's recorded studies about people who can think their way into being sick.
Yeah, you think your way in, and then you have to think your way out.
Exactly. Like you're damaging, or not damaging, but like you're like suppressing your immune system, or like again, you can think yourself into obviously in varying degrees based on the person.
I do it all the time. Like
you can think yourself into anxiety attack.
Oh yeah.
You just think and think and think and think.
Yes. And that's it. And so the issue with LPR, everyone who has LPR, they're all the same. They all have a history of anxiety, stress. They're very sensitive. They're always very sensitive, like easily upset. They have a lot of self-doubt and all this shit. And what happens is you have these symptoms. You Google the symptoms. That makes it worse. And once you start having these symptoms, it becomes this horrible vicious cycle where the stress caused the symptoms, but then you have the symptoms and you're stressed about the symptoms,
right?
Which creates more stress, and then the stress feeds the symptoms. And for a lot of people, they cannot get out of it. But like, sometimes someone will put on one of my videos, like very rarely, there's been a couple of comments where they're like, there's no way you could recover from this because blah, blah, blah. And I just delete it right away because it's like, it's not helping anyone. Everyone needs to know that. I mean, I never tell people it's all on you. You can fix it. Otherwise but I just say, this is what I did and it worked. And it's been like 10 years now, since I've had any of that. But even now, like when I get really stressed, I've started having this weird like neuropathy thing where my hands tingle a lot, my feet tingle. I've been getting tension headaches in the back of my neck that scare the shit out of me. I did a leg circuit the other day. I was 2 reps away from being done with the last exercise, and my back of my neck felt like it was going to explode, and I like fell on the floor, and I was panicked. I was like, look, for some reason I started going, I'm sorry. I don't know who I was apologizing to, but I was just like, I'm sorry, please let me live. I was convinced I was going to die. I Googled that, and apparently that's actually quite common. If you have tension headaches, it can really fuck up a workout, and it happens to people all the time. But it's scary. But even with this, I started thinking I've got neuropathy, which is like, I don't know if you know about neuropathy, but basically it's just nerve damage where you can feel tingling or like numbness in your hands and your arms. And I've been having it for like a year now, but the more stressed I get, the worse it gets. And it's only recently that I used my fucking LPR method, and I'm like, I just like, nah, I'm not going to stress about it. Now it's kind of going away.
Have you looked into anything like, obviously it's not legal medically here, but like, ever looked into like how psychedelics help with stress, how ketamine therapy helps?
Yeah, and I'd be open to doing that. I mean, I've done just, recreationally, I've done shrooms and acid, and I mean, not like to the point where it's been years since I've done it. Actually, never mind. I'm not going to say what I was going to say. I'll get myself in trouble. But yeah, I'd be totally open to do stuff like that. But right now, I'm going deep because I've been working on myself. Listen, you're talking to a crazy person as well. You have to understand that. Like, we were talking about Alan Moore practicing like magic and stuff. I started doing that. I got into magic. Like, yeah, you're laughing, but I will cast a spell on you. No,
fucking jacked ass Harry Potter.
Yeah. Fuck. Oh man, I was trying to be like Alan Moore, but yeah. I'll tell you actually a really interesting story about this. I don't know how much time we have.
We got time.
The thing that got me most into Alan Moore, other than his comics themselves, is I heard this interview with him on there's a guy called Nick Majerison who's in English. He was a radio DJ, and he had a radio show that he interviewed Alan Moore on, and it's a long interview where Alan Moore talks about how he got into magic. And when you listen to him, it becomes less silly, because one of the things that Alan Moore says is magic is much easier for people to accept once they realize it only happens in your mind.